Have you ever walked into a room and felt something wasn't right, even though no one said a word? There are times when logic tells you everything's fine, but your heart starts racing anyway. Has that ever happened to you? When dreams become warnings, when intuition is no longer just superstition. It might be time to listen to the voice within. Hello, you someone who's taking a few minutes out of your busy life to sit down and hear this. Let me begin with a question. Have you ever felt like something was wrong, but you couldn't quite name it? No proof, no clear reason, but that feeling lingers, heavy, vague, unfamiliar. One of my patients, let's call her Linda, once told me I walked into my own house, the place I've lived for over 20 years, and suddenly it felt like a stranger was inside. I didn't see anyone, but the air. It got strangely cold, and my chest, doctor. It felt like someone was pressing down on it. Linda isn't superstitious. She's a literature teacher. Someone who believed negative emotions were just stress or lack of sleep. But that feeling, it kept coming back. Same room, same hour, day after day. Have you ever experienced something like that? A room you always avoid, but don't know why. A person who makes your skin crawl, even though they act perfectly polite. A corner in your house that suddenly feels heavy, even when everything looks exactly the same. We're often taught to trust logic, that emotions are unstable, that we're being too sensitive. But you know what? Intuition is not weakness. It's the oldest alarm system our ancestors left behind in neuroscience. There's a concept called somatic markers, physical signals the body sends before the brain can process all the information. It's when your gut tightens, your skin prickles, your breath shortens, even when you don't know why. A study from the University of Iowa showed that humans can sense danger before they consciously realize it. It's not superstition, it's biology, it's intuition encoded by thousands of years of survival and experience. Back to Linda, the dreams began, recurring, night after night. A shadow standing in the darkness, watching, doing nothing. But each time she woke up, she felt drained, unable to breathe deeply, unable to meditate, unable to pray. I asked her, when did this begin? And as we sat down and traced things back, she realized. It all started after she received a gift from an old friend, a small item, just a scented charm, seemingly harmless. But from that moment, everything shifted. I'm not sharing this story to scare you. I'm telling it so you'll listen more closely to yourself. The philosopher, Marcus Aurelius, once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Your soul is tinted by the thoughts you allow to stay. So when you step into a space that makes your spirit feel heavy, anxious, exhausted, don't rush to blame yourself. Ask instead, where is this feeling coming from? Why don't I feel like myself here? What could be silently invading my mental safe zone? You might be someone who prays often, someone who's grateful, kind, but often it's people like that who are targeted because they radiate light. And as I often tell my patients, where there is light, darkness will try to creep in. Pay attention to your dreams, to those rooms, to the eyes that give you chills. Believe that your intuition never lies. You've just been trained to ignore it for too long. I'm not encouraging you to live in fear. On the contrary, live in awareness. When you start asking questions, you begin to see things that were always there. You just weren't ready to notice them. And once you see them, you'll know what to do. Cleanse your space. Cut toxic ties. Stop to breathe. Write down your dreams. And then, little by little, you'll reclaim control over your mind. As we close today, I want to leave you with a quote from Epictetus, a Stoic master I deeply respect. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do first. Ask yourself who you want to become. Then, do what it takes to protect that version of you. You want to live in peace, don't you? Then don't let unease take over the home inside you. Listen to your intuition. Act before it's too late. Thank you for staying with me until the end. If this message resonates with you, leave a comment. I trust my intuition. And if you're caught in a haze right now, just remember this. You are not crazy. You are awakening. You see, intuition is not an illusion. It is the first voice of consciousness, a gentle reminder that something is happening, even when the world outside remains silent. But what happens when you ignore that voice? What happens when you push past it, charging forward without stopping to ask, where is the wind turning from? That's when all your effort starts to lose meaning, and you'll notice it most clearly in the area everyone cares about: career, finances, and doors of opportunity. I've worked with hundreds of adults, from high-powered entrepreneurs to retired teachers. And there's a pattern I've seen again and again, every time. They're about to step into something great, it slips away. The first time, they say, maybe it wasn't the right time. The second time must have been bad luck. By the third or fourth time, they begin to doubt themselves. A friend of mine, Robert, once served as deputy director at a tech firm. He told me that in just 18 months, he was almost promoted 4 times. Each time, everything was lined up. Only the final signature was missing. Then, suddenly, the boss would pull back, or the company would unexpectedly restructure. Once, on the very day of his appointment announcement, the company's internal server was hacked, delaying everything indefinitely. Robert began to ask, is there something that doesn't want me to move forward? Have you ever felt like that? You've worked hard, you've studied, invested, persevered, but every door closes right before you walk through it. Not once, but repeatedly. And maybe you start thinking, maybe I don't deserve it. Don't believe that thought. That isn't your true voice. That's the result of blocked energy, which could come from your environment, from others, or even from within. If you haven't yet noticed what's been subtly influencing you, Stoicism teaches us to observe before reacting. So if your luck seems to always be almost there, then gone, don't just rush to start again. Pause and ask yourself, when did things begin to go off track? Did someone new enter your life around that time? Is there something you keep around, seemingly harmless, but it weighs you down every time you carry it? A client of mine, Cheryl, 52 years old, once received a small painting from a former co-worker. She hung it in her home office. From that day on, she couldn't concentrate. Her freelance projects kept getting cancelled by clients. At first, she thought it was just coincidence. But the moment she removed that painting, it was as if the energy in the room had been unlocked. I'm not sharing this story to instill fear. I'm sharing it to open a possibility that we often overlook. Maybe it's not that you lack skill. Maybe it's not that you're not good enough. Maybe you've just been walking with a stone in your backpack, one you didn't even know was there. And sometimes that stone isn't physical at all. It might be a hidden intention from someone once close to you. Maybe they were envious. Maybe they simply didn't want you to rise above them. But energy, as we know, doesn't need words to spread. It only needs a tiny gap in your awareness. Stoicism doesn't teach us to run from darkness. It teaches us to face it, to understand it, and to walk through it with peace within. So if you find yourself stuck in a cycle of repeated failure, start by cleansing your space. Remove the things that make you doubt yourself. Turn off the negative noise. And most importantly, write down what happened, when, and with whom. Clarity always leads the way to recovery. And I want to leave you with a quote I always remind myself of: the obstacle is the way. Marcus Aurelius, the obstacle doesn't block the path, it is the path. If opportunities keep coming and slipping away, maybe it's not a dead end. Maybe it's an invitation for you to clear the way more thoroughly, more consciously, more powerfully. You are not being blocked. You are being reminded that it's time to change how you walk. If this resonates with your experience, leave a comment. I am ready to move past all obstacles. And I'll be here, walking with you, every step of the awakening journey. We've been talking about doors closing, paths being disrupted, not because you aren't good enough, but because something is holding you back. But what if I told you that some forms of manipulation don't happen in your mind? They happen inside your very home. I know it might sound far-fetched, but I want you to think back to a time when you noticed something in your space that felt off. An object you didn't remember placing there, a picture you couldn't explain, or something as simple as a bracelet, a rock, or an old photo that made you feel uneasy every time you touched it. One winter morning last year, I sat down for coffee with a woman named Ellen, 58 years old, a widow living alone in the old home she once shared with her husband. Ellen was a logical woman, not easily swayed by talk of the supernatural. But she told me this: there was a week where I just couldn't sleep. My chest felt heavy, like someone was sitting on it. Every time I stepped into my bedroom, I got chills, like someone was watching me from the corner. One morning, while cleaning under her bed, Ellen found a small burlap pouch tied with red string. Inside were strands of hair, a black stone, and a folded piece of paper. She had never seen it before. And you know what's strange? The moment she threw it away, the air in her room felt lighter. Her sleep returned. The paranoia disappeared. I'm not here to claim it was witchcraft. I'm not saying you should fear every gift someone gives you. But I do believe that some objects carry energetic frequencies. And if you're not fully conscious, they can root themselves into your living space without you even realizing it. In classical anthropology, there are countless records of ancient humans leaving objects at transition points, like doorsteps, under pillows, beneath beds, to send an intention, to protect, or to disrupt. Today, this doesn't happen the way it does in horror films. It's subtler. It could be an old photo someone sent you, and you've kept it without really knowing why. It could be a ring or bracelet from someone who once hurt you, but you still wear it because it looks nice. Or a gift handed to you with a casual line like, "I just thought this suits you." The issue isn't the object itself. The issue lies in the intention hidden within it. Just like a phone doesn't create signals, it only receives them. Objects are the same. They're not inherently magical, but they can carry and transmit energy, good or bad, depending on the one who sends it. Stoic philosophy never talks about witches or curses, but it speaks deeply about mental clarity, awareness, and the importance of the environment we live in. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." And sometimes, what's standing in your way might be lying under your pillow, or sitting quietly on your living room shelf. So, if lately you've found yourself more distracted, more irritable, unable to sleep, take a good look at your living space. Has something new appeared? Is there something that feels heavy in a way it didn't before? A gift, a decoration, a photo. If your body doesn't feel safe, trust that. The body doesn't lie. Only the rational mind makes us doubt what we already know. So if you find something suspicious, or even something that simply feels wrong, don't touch it with your bare hands. Use gloves or a cloth. Place it in a paper bag. Take it out of the house and, if possible, bury it or release it into flowing water. Then, cleanse the space. No need for complicated rituals. Just your attention, intention, and presence. Use salt, a candle, incense, sound. Whatever aligns with your beliefs. What matters isn't what you use, but the energy and purpose you infuse into the act. I'll end this part with a simple message. Treat your home like your soul. Don't hold on to anything that makes you uneasy just to be polite, or because it's not hurting anyone. If this speaks to you, leave a comment. I choose to cleanse my space and protect my energy. See you in the next part, where we'll talk about one of the most heartbreaking signs of energy interference, when the people you love begin to drift away without reason. And you'll see, sometimes, it's not that they've changed, but that something else is driving a wedge between hearts. When you start cleansing your space, you might feel a lightness, like you've opened a window that had been shut for years. But then, you might notice something stranger. Something that doesn't live in physical form, but in relationships. And if you've ever gone through it, you'll know this feeling too well. When the people you trusted most suddenly change. I want you to imagine this. You wake up on a Sunday morning, like any other day. You're still you. You haven't done anything wrong, but you send a message, and your best friend doesn't reply. A coworker begins to avoid you. A loved one, it could be your child, a sibling, or even your partner, suddenly becomes distant. No explanation, no argument, just a long, deep silence. I once spoke with a man named Raymond, 62 years old, a former engineer, a devoted father. He said to me, "I don't understand. My daughter and I used to be so close. Then one day, the calls became less frequent. Then they stopped. Last Christmas, she didn't come home. I texted her. She read it, but never replied." He went back through every message they had exchanged. There was nothing wrong. No argument. No clear misunderstanding. Just a subtle crack that appeared from nowhere and widened over time. Have you ever experienced something like that? Someone who once called you irreplaceable now won't even look you in the eye. A community that once welcomed you now excludes you from every meeting. Your words twisted. Your kindness misinterpreted. You tried explaining, but the more you spoke, the further they pulled away. And at some point, you started to wonder, maybe I really am the problem. Let me say this to you, from the deepest part of my heart. Not every fracture starts with you. And sometimes, it doesn't even start with them. It starts with a third energy, an invisible force that creeps into relationships, planting misunderstanding, doubt, and distance. In many ancient cultures, from Africa, the Middle East, to South America, it's believed that the cruelest way to hurt someone is not to strike them, but to isolate them from the ones who love them. No threats, no violence, just making others unable to see you clearly anymore. I'm not telling you this to spread fear. I'm telling you so that you don't rush to blame yourself. Because it's very possible that you're being pulled away, not by your own flaws, but by an energy that's distorting how others perceive you. And this kind of witchcraft, as I call it, doesn't use spells. It uses doubt. It uses whispered words. It uses deliberate emotional detachment. And then one day, you wake up, and no one is standing beside you anymore. So what does Stoicism teach us in moments like this? Epictetus once said, "Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do, and you will go on well." But acceptance does not mean passivity. It means pausing long enough to see things clearly without being consumed by them. If you feel misunderstood, if you feel your loved ones pulling away, stop blaming yourself for a moment. Instead, ask, when did this begin? Who appeared in our lives around that time? Am I holding on to an object, a phrase, or an image that came from someone who once carried negative energy? And then gently begin to cleanse. You don't need to call them to explain. You don't need to beg for them to return. Just focus on healing yourself. Because when you return to clarity and peace within, your entire frequency shifts. And maybe no promises, but maybe the people who once turned away will begin to see you again. Because by then, the fog will have lifted. I want you to remember this. You haven't truly lost anyone, as long as you haven't lost yourself. And the ones who truly belong with you will return at the exact moment their heart becomes free from interference. If this message speaks to you, leave a short comment. I choose to keep my heart pure. And please remember, you are not alone. Isolation is not the end. It's an invitation to return inward, and from there, reconnect more deeply than ever before. After loved ones turn their backs, after doors begin to close one by one, you'll enter a strange phase. No one is hurting you anymore, not from the outside, and yet you still feel uneasy. There's no more drama, no more cold messages, no more blame. It's just that. You wake up, look in the mirror, and you don't recognize yourself anymore. I want you to pause for a few seconds, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, when was the last time I felt truly at peace? If you can't remember, if peace now feels like a distant concept, then you may be in a phase I call the disorientation of the soul. One of my clients, Martha, 47, was once deeply spiritually connected. She meditated every morning, prayed every night. She kept her home energetically clean and vibrant. But one day, she told me, I can't meditate anymore. Every time I sit down, I feel afraid, as if something is sitting beside me in the dark, not touching, not speaking, just watching. Her dreams began to change. No more joy, no more symbolism, only visions of running, being chased, tied down, held in silence. Have you ever felt that? You walk into a room, a familiar one, and the air suddenly thickens. You avoid a corner in your house, even though no one told you to. You hear a small sound, but it sends chills across your skin. You wake up in the middle of the night. No noise, no movement, yet your heart is racing. In psychology, this state is known as hypervigilance, a heightened state of alertness, often seen in trauma survivors. But not all trauma comes from a clear, dramatic event. Sometimes, it's the result of prolonged energetic attack, a slow erosion that confuses your nervous system, making you unable to tell what's safe and what's not. Stoicism never teaches us to deny emotions. On the contrary, it teaches us to observe emotions like we observe the weather, without judgment, without panic. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. And if lately your soul feels heavy, gray, directionless, stop. Listen to what your inner self is trying to say before it turns into illness, despair, or numbness. One of the most powerful yet overlooked signs of spiritual disruption is when your faith begins to shake. If you once felt guided, and now you feel blocked. If you once could sit still with yourself, and now you can't bear the silence. If you once saw light in other people's eyes, and now all you see is distance. Let me say this clearly. You are not crazy. You are not weak. You are in a stage where your consciousness is trying to awaken you. So instead of fighting it, start recording it. Write down your dreams. Write down how you feel throughout the day. Write about the moments when you felt anxious, afraid, or as if someone was near. Gradually, a pattern will emerge, and you'll see those feelings weren't random at all. This is the time for cleansing, not a 3-day detox, but a deeper, energetic purification, a cleansing of your living force. Step away from friend groups that leave you exhausted. Every time you meet them, reorganize your spiritual corner, your altar, your meditation space, or simply the chair where you used to sit in stillness. Turn off the excess noise, the negative news, the disrespectful texts, the words that chip away at your belief in yourself, and instead, give yourself a space that feels safe enough to heal. I'm not saying you need to do all of this today. Just want you to stop ignoring the voice within you. You have an internal alarm system, older than any technology on earth. It's called intuition. It doesn't need a reason. It just needs you to listen. I'll close with this, something I remind myself every day. Clarity is protection. And if the signs I've shared today made you quietly nod in recognition, please don't dismiss them again. Because the moment you begin to see, you've already begun to heal. If this resonates with you, leave a comment. I choose to listen to my soul. You're not alone. You're not lost. You're awakening. And that is the first step of every journey back to yourself. After you begin listening to your soul, after you start realizing that those subtle, strange feelings were actually signals, you'll come face to face with a familiar but terrifying sensation, the feeling of not being yourself anymore, not because someone hurt you, not because you were betrayed or experienced great loss, but because you've slowly disconnected from your own essence. I once worked with a woman named Yvonne, 54 years old. She whispered to me, almost like she was afraid of herself, I don't know who I am anymore. I go to work, come home, cook, talk to people, but I feel like I'm living in a shell. Inside, I feel empty. I asked her, when did you first start feeling this way? What was the first thing you lost? She was quiet for a long time, then said, small joys. And you know what? That's exactly the first sign. Not some major event. Not a breakdown. But erosion. Quiet erosion. You no longer laugh when you hear your favorite song. You stop pouring yourself tea in the morning. You stop taking pictures of flowers on the street. You forget the hobby that once made you feel alive. It's not laziness. It's not depression. It's what happens when your energy gets drained by forces that don't belong to you. The Stoics may not have written chapters about the ego in the same way as Eastern philosophy, but they spoke deeply about the nature of being human and the duty you have to yourself. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." If you no longer feel like you're living for something, you'll slowly begin to dissolve into the energy that surrounds you. Not necessarily bad, but no longer you. If you find yourself in that state right now, let me say this clearly. You are not broken. You are simply lost. And like with any journey, of course, what you need is not a new path, but a compass. Your compass might be a morning without looking at your phone, a notebook where you write your feelings each night, a walk without a destination, a 5-minute meditation not to quiet the mind, but to remember the rhythm of your own breath. I once told a student of mine, do again the little things that once made you feel like yourself. And he began by buying the same fountain pen he used back in university. That was all, but his former self returned like a gentle fragrance. Sometimes, witchcraft doesn't come from anyone else. It comes from the small compromises, the moments we allow others to erase our boundaries, from forgetting ourselves to be more likable, to not bother others, to feel worthy of love. And then one day, we're just an empty shell, dear one. If you feel like a stranger to yourself, don't go searching for answers out there. Come back within, clear the space, listen deeply. Remember, no need to rush, just be real, real enough to feel. I'm living with myself, not just getting through the day. If this speaks to you, leave a comment. I choose to return to myself, one step at a time. And remember, when you are truly yourself, no force can control you. That is the greatest protection, and the most beautiful awakening. When you're no longer yourself, there will come a moment where you don't just feel empty, you feel like there's no way out. You no longer know how to pray. You can't meditate, even though you once sat in stillness for hours. You open a book on healing and can't make it through a single page. That feeling, I call it the dimming of the inner light. An old classmate of mine, once a respected spiritual advisor in New York, called me late one night. He said, I've helped hundreds reconnect with their faith, with their energy, with their peace. But now, I can't even speak God's name. I can't pray. I feel nothing. He used to be the one people turned to reignite their inner flame, but now, he couldn't feel anything at all. Have you ever felt that way? You walk into a space that used to feel sacred, a church, a meditation room, a park, or simply that familiar chair by the window. But instead of peace, you only feel emptiness. No connection, no inspiration, no drive. There's nothing wrong. No one is hurting you anymore, and yet, you feel as if your soul has been unplugged. Stoicism doesn't use the term spiritual energy the way Eastern philosophies do, but it deeply believes in the connection between mind, body, and soul. A person disconnected from their inner source, sooner or later, will lose direction in every decision they make. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." But how can you return to your soul if it no longer answers when you call? This is the final sign and the deepest one. You no longer know how to come back to yourself, even though you were once the person who knew that path best. And that is not your fault. It's because something, an energy, an influence, has bent your frequency away from your original source. I once told a 63-year-old woman who hadn't been able to pray in 2 years, faith never disappears. It just gets buried under too many layers of pain, and we don't need to dig all the way through at once. We just need to create a small crack, just enough for the light to slip in. That crack might be a soft whisper, "I want to believe." Again, an old song, one you used to sing as a child, before things broke, before you lost your innocence. A letter you write to yourself, not to solve anything, but simply to admit, I'm tired. I'm lost, but I don't want to give up. Witchcraft doesn't just take away your luck, it takes away your ability to heal yourself. Because when you no longer believe you can recover, that is the most dangerous wound of all. But if you're listening to this, then congratulations, you're not completely lost. There's still a part of you reaching back. There is still light, flickering perhaps, but real. Start again, small steps. A candle lit each night. A phrase you once believed, I am loved, I am protected. A simple gesture of honoring your body, even if it's just drinking warm water with both hands on the cup, full of quiet gratitude. Don't wait for your soul to come back. Knock on its door, gently, but consistently, because your soul is waiting for you, too. If you're still searching for the light, leave a comment. I am not extinguished. I am returning. And never forget, you haven't lost the ability to connect. You just need time to wipe away the dust. Dust doesn't erase light. It only makes you forget that you've always been the light. Dear one, if you've stayed until this very moment, let me tell you something. Before anything else, you are not weak, you are awakening, and the journey you've just taken with these 7 signs I've shared is not a checklist to fear, it's a mirror to help you look inward, to give you the chance to name the things you've felt, but never dared to say out loud. You've felt like luck has turned its back on you, haven't you? You've felt exhausted in your own home. You've looked into the eyes of a loved one and seen that something is no longer the same. You've doubted yourself. You've lost your way. You've knelt down to pray and heard nothing from the other side. I know, not because I read it in a book, but because I've been there too. And I want you to know, you are not crazy. You are not wrong. You are not cursed. You're simply living in a world where energy is real, but rarely called by its true name. Where the wounds don't appear on the skin, but hide in invisible threads between you and your space, between you and others, between you and your soul. Stoic philosophy never promised an easy world. It offers only one thing, inner clarity, so that when the storm comes, you're not swept away. You stand still, you observe, you acknowledge, and then you act. Not with panic, but with peace. If you feel surrounded by things you can't name, start with 3 small steps. Listen to your intuition. It never lies. You've just let too much noise drown it out for too long. Cleanse your space inside and out. Every object, every thought, every memory. If it no longer serves you, gently put it down. Return to the light within you. Even if it's faint, even if it's dim, it has never gone out. It is waiting patiently, gently, and more faithfully than anyone who has ever walked through your life. I don't know your name. I don't know where you are in the world, but I do know this. As long as you still want to return, you are never truly lost. If this journey made you feel seen, understood, or accompanied, leave a comment. I am returning to myself. And please, don't leave quietly. Share this video with someone you suspect is going through the same thing, but can't say it out loud. Who knows? You might just save them from one more hopeless night. Thank you for giving me the honor of walking with you on this path. I'm not a healing expert. I am simply someone who has been broken and doesn't want others to walk through the dark alone. I'll see you in the next video, where the light within you will shine clearer, steadier, and no longer so easily dimmed. You can begin again at any moment, even now.